Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. An increasing number of video games are sold effectively as goods with no stated expiration date, but designated to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. This practice is a form of planned obsolescence and is not only detrimental to customers, but makes preservation effectively impossible. Furthermore, the legality of this practice is largely untested in many countries. Over the past year, we have successfully escalated complaints on this problem to consumer agencies in France, Germany, and Australia, and have brought forth petitions for new law on this problem to various countries. A list of actions taken to date can be viewed here. As of 2025, most consumer action on this matter has concluded, and we are awaiting decisions on it from several governments. However, there are a few remaining avenues in which people can participate if they are eligible. And we are talking about the Stop Killing Games initiative. On the website right now, it says that the European Citizens Initiative is open to 984,883 signatures already got, with 98% completion, which is amazing. Hi, I'm the guy with bad takes. How goes it, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Emmett, and as always, please do your own research. I am but one talking head amongst a sea of many, and I'm looking at things from a 3,000-foot view. This is Ross. This is his YouTube channel. Please visit his channel and view this initiative directly from him. This is coming from the horse's mouth, so that way we're all on the same page here. The title gives it away. It is of no surprise that we're talking about the Stop Killing Games initiative. And quick summary, I think the initiative is a good idea. At time of writing, this thing has about 984K signatures, which is not too far away from reaching his goal. It's also no small feat, so congratulations to Ross. It is the 3rd by the time I'm writing this, and I believe that it stops on the 31st. I have no doubt at this point it's going to hit that goal. Congratulations, man. This is something where kudos. I have no complaints against you. You played it well. Thank you for bringing this forward. I, as a gamer and consumer, among many other things, am in the camp of hoping that this is signed off on and addressed properly in a manner that keeps things pro-consumer. Many of us have games or a game in the past that we have played, which unfortunately we do not have hard media for, or in the case of MMOs, we don't have access to any kind of servers to keep playing. In a few cases, there are some weird servers that you could play on, but for the majority of it, from my perspectives, most seem unreliable, or they possibly have a bad fork of the game that for some reason they decided to go on because that's just their personal project. But neither here nor there. I have such a thing in the case of Ragnarok, and while I could go online on Steam and play Ragnarok online right now and kind of sort of fine, it's a fork of a game that I don't really like. I don't enjoy it. And apparently around the watering hole, if I am to understand everybody correctly, this is one of the worst forks of the game. So pretty much that's what we're left with. But even still, with all of that, in today's modern age, we can forward this into the thought process of, if buying isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing. More on that later. Ladies and gentlemen, there is not much that I can really say that's negative in light of the movement. Again, I think it's great. However, in the case of another influencer, and there's a reason I chose that word in particular, I have much to say that would be of surprise really to nobody. And today we're talking about pirate software. In a bizarre move, given his past at a glance, one would think that he would be one of the last people who would be against this Stop Killing Games initiative until he openly criticized and mocked Ross for the audacity to let people keep playing their games. Yo, are you serious? Now, full disclosure, I knew of pirate software for some time outside of his controversies, because I consumed his content mainly in the YouTube Shorts category. And at the time, I won't lie to you, he actually gave out some decent advice, in my opinion. But after opening this can of worms, I can honestly say that while the advice still decent, him as a person in relation to this movement, I can honestly say, in my personal opinion, he is a scumbag. And while I shouldn't have to say it out loud for legal reasons, because he also has access to DMCA tools, all of this is wholly my opinion and alleged. Yeah, that word gets overused, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. Pirate Software, or Thor as he likes to be called in his own story, is a game developer, a former government employee, a former Blizzard employee, a rescue home for ferrets, a DMCA abuser, a roach, and a furry. While there is more to this, these are the main things that keep repopulating on my feed when doing some light research. To keep it honest with many of you, most of these things are irrelevant to the Stop Killing Games initiative. Number one, unless I've missed something major, I could care less that you're a furry. It's whatever. Number two, I could care less if you are a roach in terms of games. At worst, if you are a roach, you're just wasting people's times. I know for some people that's a cardinal sin, but I really don't see it too much as a thing. Just kick the person out of your party and call it a day. And cool, you house ferrets. I happen to like them myself, in all honesty. I think they're cool little dudes, but in all honesty, they're just an innocent party in this. So these 3 points, irrelevant to what I'm talking about today. And also, just adding on with these 3 points, I want to highlight, so long as you're not hurting anybody, you're not going after life, limb, or eyesight, then quite frankly, a lot of the stuff that gets brought up is just something where they're throwaway arguments. There's something that people are bringing up in order to just kind of sort of get that little extra dig in at them, but it's, again, not relevant to the situation. And like I always say, if you have an argument with somebody, it is with the person in relation to the argument. Everything else is irrelevant. Now, with that out of the way, about the remainder of my points, why is this an issue? Well, number one, as a quote-unquote pro-consumer game developer, or at least how he used to report, I find it kind of odd as to why he would want games to just not exist in perpetuity, or at least to the end of somebody's lifespan. This is an individual, whom on record of him reading into the Stop Killing Games initiative went off on some weird tangents about how he thinks that the initiative is used car salesman nonsense, opting to openly call it shit and quote unquote dropping the mask entirely. Keep in mind, he read the initiative live on air. I watched at least that part of the video. The leaps and bounds he makes to delegitimize the movement is nothing short of retarded, in my opinion. To borrow a phrase from Bill Engvall, Evel Knievel couldn't even make that leap, bro. While I myself am not a game designer, nor would I say that I'm a learned individual, I'm just a random asshole on the internet who makes bad takes, again, plays video games, and, well, does a little bit of 3D design and drawing on the side because it's something I'm interested in. I understand that words have meaning, all of which he makes up in his initial reading as something to smear this campaign in such bad taste, which, as a game developer, you would think that you would be contra to consumers, players, and the gamers that you want. Why would you want them to overpay or keep paying for things that they've already bought? That, to me, does not make a lot of sense. Obviously, somebody's going to spurt up and say, well, for the money, of course. It's like, well, how much is enough if we're going to go at that point? Anyway, citing and I'm paraphrasing here, how are you going to turn Final Fantasy or World of Warcraft into a single player game? And if I knew nothing about this initiative, I would agree that that seems to be a Herculean task, but that's not what the initiative calls for. All it says is that if games were to sunset, as pointed out in multiple EULAs, in my personal opinion illegally, by the way, but containing something similar to the insert company here has a right to take away the game at any point for any reason, then developers should provide some kind of code, source or not, to give to the player so that way they can keep playing the game they paid for. This, in my opinion, as well as many others, obviously by the amount of people who signed for this, is a good thing. As far as converting the idea of MMOs into single player games, I'm going to try to keep it tree fitty with you. If people want to do that, let them. The game is no longer in service. Why is this something that needs to be highlighted? Again, especially after in the initiative, that was not stated that had to happen. Just give the customers, the people, the code so they can keep playing. That's all it is. The devs aren't going to do that, or at least some might go above and beyond, but hey, it is what it is. They just need to provide a means for people to play the stuff that they bought. Nothing more, nothing less. I, for one, would love to revisit some older games, as said before, Ragnarok Online, from a pseudo-official source, from people who actually give a damn about the game to keep it alive and make meaningful changes to it. In the case of older Call of Duties, giving up the code to someone else who cares, or in the case of the SM2 mod, before Activision decided to be a bastard about it and just play all of the older CODs of yesteryear, in my personal opinion, before up to Black Ops 2, best one in my opinion, hands down. You're not going to get me to change my opinion on that, but playing all the Call of Duties up to that point encompassed in one area, so that way people can play it. I thought that was a good idea, but Activision pretty much put the kibosh on it, and now we're stuck with Call of Duties that have always online activity, voice scanning AI nonsense that will ban you for not saying anything or for saying something. It really doesn't matter. The lack of grit in any and all of the story, and quite frankly, lazy programming, SBM, and the other horseshit that it is today. I could tell you more, but we'd be here for half the day. Second thing that concerns me, if my memory and research is to be correct, this will be the shortest, or at least one of the shortest. While doing some research, this was one thing that he mentioned a few times. He has some kind of past when it comes to having a government job, and I believe he said he worked for the Department of Energy. Ironically enough, I also worked with the government. Granted, it was under the Department of Defense. I have some questions and concerns over the legitimacy of this, and this is not something that, if he's not comfortable with it, he doesn't have to state it plainly and openly. I understand there's still NDAs involved, perfectly fine. This is something of a one-off conversation that he would have to have with somebody who is more so in the know-how, and then parse the information from there. But further than that, if he's able to talk about a lot more than what he lets on, then I would like to see him make a video about that and what exactly, all in all, he truly encompassed, while again still adhering to whatever NDA that he signed. For a lot of people, this may not seem like a big thing, but as somebody who has taken God knows how many OPSEC and quote unquote secrecy, as I like to call them, courses, there's just some stuff you don't explain, and it is, trust me, for the benefit of everybody. But at the same time, if you're going to make in my personal opinion, a monumental claim of, hey, I work for this government agency, okay, well, let's call that into question about whether you really worked for them or not. But neither here nor there. Like I said, that's something of a private conversation, or if he's willing to adhere to his NDA, he can make a freaking tell-all. We'll see what happens. It's just something that irks me. Sorry. Third point, a Blizzard employee. Now, this one's just kind of sort of fun for me. As others have pointed out and repeated, he was formerly a Blizzard employee, in the wake of his negativity to this movement. People have turned sour on him, suggesting that he is throating old Bobby Kotick's dick. This is just something that makes me laugh, but to me, as well as others who know Activision Blizzard's history when it comes to fucking over the consumer for years at this point, I understand where and how some people would draw some parallels from where you work to the controversies you are in or will be in consideration of the future. I have not worked at Blizzard myself. I only know about as much as the person next to me in regards to the workplace scandals that were published and the stories that get released to the public. What I can say is this, in conjunction with these awful workplace conditions, and for what Pirate Software is preaching, I can say that Blizzard is the common factor here, and it might be in need of another purge because something definitely is not smelling right here, especially after viewing some piss poor animation and story writing from a certain scene in World of Warcraft. That if you know that is piss poor. Whoever you got to work on that, they need to find other places of employment. I'm pretty sure a majority of people can tell you this is not what players want. If they want to make a Karen simulator, go make a Karen simulator, but don't co-opt everybody else's games. There's probably a reason why these ideas are unpopular. Stop co-opting our games and putting it into it, because otherwise you're just killing something else, and then you're going to stand on the whole fucking idea of, oh, well, gamers are istaphobes. It's like, no, we're not. We have the money. We know what we want. Stop doing stupid shit. Going back to my first point, Thor is a self-professed game developer working on his own game, Heartbound, for an undisclosed amount of time to me, but released on Steam's early access program as of September 18th in 2018. And for all intents and purposes, this 2D game is reported to be something akin to a Deltarune or an Undertale, games that I've sadly yet to play. Don't worry, they're on my list. But the problem is, it's been in development time at time of writing for 7 years. While overwhelmingly negative now, most likely due to the dislike bombing, due to people finding out that this individual is a snake. But glancing at the comments before the bandwagon appeared, he had essentially given up on the game, either running out of ideas or just getting bored with the game, missing updates, or just updating it poorly, if at all, with the alternative being that he made his money and just left. To me, this is unacceptable. If you have a game or a vision for your game, then make the game to some kind of end state, sloppy or not, then release it. I feel like this is just Kickstarter, Steam Greenlight, or God help us, the day before crap, where you are actively turning the goodwill of people against the very thing they enjoy while at the same time profiting off of it. This is poor form, very much poor form indeed. This has led to the speculation, of which I agree with, that given that he rejects the initiative entirely, that he was also going to release his abandonware, then immediately, sunset it to attempt to dodge any and all accountability, which I have to say, or I'd have to argue, would be a horrible idea, and it would only make whatever situation that he is in or not in much, much worse. People now and again, while they have horrible short-term memory, their long-term memory is absolutely something to be reckoned with. And down the line, they will remember that you were the guy that burned them, and they will not be too kind to you. And here's the thing. Some people are gamers that you would never expect to be gamers, especially with, at least from what I am seeing on the outside, modern hiring practices. They scrub through social media, man. And they do some dives. Just saying. Past that, since he's really yet to do anything of note outside of being infamous for this incident, which would seal the book on whatever legacy that he was trying to craft, you were right. Right there on the cusp of being generally a decent fella. But you decided that it would be easier to crash and burn, spurning everyone in your wake and selling out companies whom at the end of the day don't give a fuck about you. Winding it down here, I'm hoping that this initiative has a knock-on effect with other industries. I know the right to repair guy, Louis Rossman, has some good points. Why are both these guys named Ross? Are they the same people? No? Oh, fuck. Okay, well, but the right to repair guy is someone I've slowly been tuning into because Ross, or not Accursed Farms Ross, but Rossman, he presents himself as a good pro-consumer case of taking back and taking pride in what you own, making your dollar go further than what it would have previously thought, so long as, you care. And in relevance to me, I was the guy that was rocking Windows Office from 2013 all the way up until I think like 5 years ago, and using it for what I thought was forever because I had the license key, I had the disk, but that wasn't the case. It was some time ago where I tried to install it. I received an error message from Microsoft saying, hey, you need to shell out for Office 365. This program is no longer supported. I called up Microsoft and essentially was told the same thing: get fucked, pay for the Office program. And ironically enough, that was the same day I figured out that open source software was a thing. And since then, I've been rocking LibreOffice, and I have been doing my damnedest to try to avoid giving Microsoft any amount of money, to the point to where even every now and again I swap to a random Linux distro just to kind of dip my toe in the water and future-proof myself, because I am now of the belief that given how colossally fucked Microsoft has gone down the hole with Windows 11, it is still popular, but I also think it's kind of sort of a dying program, whereas some other government agency or government entities, I believe across the world, you'll correct me, I believe it's Sweden, Finland, one of these nations, I apologize if I'm incorrect on that, but they decided to just cut the Microsoft cord and just say, fuck it, we'll use Linux. So Microsoft's grip is waning. And I would highly recommend for a lot of people, if you know how to partition a hard drive or even have a spare hard drive, pick up a version of Linux. I recommend you start with either Linux Mint or Pop OS, but that's aside the point. I've gone way off topic and I apologize. Down the line, what I'm hoping for is that this will have a knock-on effect with other softwares, where they eventually neuter the concept of always online games or services, or in the case of spending $60 to $80, God forbid, even more dollars American on a game, they just go back to the process of giving you a physical disc that will always work. We all fell for the convenient lie of digital media being superior, and it wasn't until that everything was gone and we ignored the people before us that we realized that it was just it was just that a convenient lie used to siphon more money out of you and I as people, while at the same time giving us less than what we paid for. And I think it's safe to say we're all sick and tired of this nonsense, so much so that when looking into a certain phrase, if buying isn't owning, then piracy isn't stealing. Looking into that and how it came to be, ladies and gentlemen, I wholly agree with that movement also. Anyway, wrapping it up here. If you're in the UK, from an American who can also see the benefits of this, please, I encourage you to sign the Stop Killing Games petition. As of where it stands right now, it's purely great for the consumer. You always get to keep playing the games that you love, hopefully revisit some software you love, and all in all, for preservation, it's wonderful. That's my time, y'all. Stay safe, have a good one. I'm out. As a little bit of a late addition to this video, we have a tweet from Pirate Software, just pretty much tying a crappy little bow on the entirety of the situation that is Stop Killing Games. Now that I'm looking at it right now, it has garnered over 1 million signatures. Pirate Software is essentially just making an exit. He's got nothing to do with his game. I'll just read you the tweet. How about that? From Pirate Software, I am no longer working at Off-Brand Games. People are attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. You can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged. Learned a lot out there, accomplished a lot. Hope they succeed regardless. Love these dudes and love working with them. Hope they keep cooking. So with all of that being said, I will add this. Or Pirate Software, whatever you're going to rebrand yourself as, because something tells me this whole thing is tarnished for you. You were your own PR team. It is one thing, and I understand, and that's somewhat respectable that you have the beliefs that you do, and you just choose to be steadfast with them 100% ride or die. Okay, that is somewhat acceptable and commendable in a sense. The downside is you're backing a horse that doesn't really seem to have a downside. You haven't really convinced the layman to vote against the initiative that you said was supposed to be evil, and that's the part of the audience that you need to reach. I, for example, much like probably a lot of other people, are layman's to this. So when you outright say this something is a bad idea, or you go against the massive grain, you need to have substantial evidence for it. Substantial evidence of which that most of us are looking at not being a bad thing. So all in all, you did this to yourself. I will agree to an extent that review bombing, it is a little bit of a scummy tactic. It doesn't matter which side of the aisle that you're on. However, you also need to understand as to why these review bombing actually exists. And granted, it's for malicious, and I guess we can call it justified reasons. Malicious, we all know, I'm not going over that. Pretty much, hey, we just don't like this one person, and that one person could just make like a lukewarm take. But in this case, this one falls in the side of justified, because there has been an audience that has been trying to talk to you and trying to get your opinion legitimately on the Stop Killing Games initiative, but every time it's brought up, you immediately ban them. Every time it's brought up, you move on to something else. You even had Charlie, Penguin Zero, and Ross themselves come to talk to you over Twitter, and you still continue to have a harsh no on the entirety of it. Now, it'd be one thing if you actually came out and said, hey, I disagree with it, and then you gave like logical reasonings behind it, easy to explain logical reasonings. But the way that it sounds like it went down, you didn't even do that. Yours was just a flat out no, fuck you, everybody else is wrong. You did this to yourself, man. I feel bad for off-brand games. Don't get me wrong. At this point, I understand they're not you, but you, as the figurehead, represented them. Even if you weren't the figurehead, you were the social media personality that tied into them. And now you got to live with the idea that everything you touch, until people forget, which is not going to be for a long time, mind you, is essentially poison. So, in the words of Ludacris, I wish I asked well, but quite frankly, I want nothing to do with you. And I think everybody else kind of sort of feels the same way. You did it to yourself. All you had to do was just be somewhat reasonable in this whole thing. Yeah, you probably would have gotten a little bit of shit, but you can carry on the way that you're carrying on. You chose not to be reasonable. You chose to double down. You chose to essentially be a dickhead. And now, look where you are now. That's all I'm saying. Anywho, I apologize for wasting more of your time, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe. Have a good one. I'm out. I keep trying to get this video out, but unfortunately, I keep delaying it because I'm lazy. There's one more update, and this is something that I want to highlight as a little serious. As of Tuesday, by his words, Pirate Software, or Thor as he calls himself, has been swatted. Now, I say this on two fronts. Number one, if it is something that truly happened, I think it's safe to say anybody in any community would denounce the people that are doing this. This is not okay, not copacetic. This is not how you quote unquote get revenge. You are just, in all essences, as far as I am concerned, a domestic terrorist, and you should be punished to the full legal extent, without question. Two, and the second front, if this didn't happen, what the fuck, Thor? Why? Like, the best thing you could have done in this situation, if what you're saying is false, is just shut the hell up and go on about your business. That would have been the best thing that you could say. If this is false, you are, in my personal opinion, disgusting. And quite frankly, my opinion again, and I think others would agree, you don't really deserve whatever success that you have. It's already established you can't read, or you just like the bullshit. With respects to that, I don't think it's going to be too far-fetched to show evidence that this happened. I have not seen it as of yet of making this video, and I will, or excuse me, as of making this update, and I will admit I'm not really trying too hard to find it. Burden of proof is on him, as far as I am concerned. If you can prove that this happened, okay, you have my sympathy. If you cannot prove that this happened, dude, shut the hell up, get the hell off the internet, and just go do your own thing. You don't need to be on here. You're wasting everybody's time, and you're also making a fake play for sympathy. That is not good. It's not copacetic. It makes you look even worse than what you already do right now. It's safe to say, if you're hurt over anything, Or if you're just going to be the bad guy in one area, for a lot of people, their best bet is probably just to shut the hell up and move the hell on. And that would have been the end of it. But now here we are with this, and you're potentially making it worse. I say potentially because, again, I would like to see proof. Anywho, now I'm going to try to render this video, and hopefully there will be no more updates in the span of the 2 hours that it's going to take to render this. Stay safe, have a good one. This story is now wrapped up with a nice, neat little bow tie, and hopefully I don't have to talk about it again. Stop Killing Games initiative has not gone through, but however, it has reached a critical capacity. It got its 1 million signatures with a surplus, and now the only thing left to do is just verify the names, make sure nobody signed a bad name, everybody's name is correct, and nobody spoofed a freaking name on there. So yeah, there is that. Hopefully this gains some momentum and we can all live happily ever after. And anybody who denounces the movement, yeah, go fuck yourselves. I'm not paying, you shouldn't have to pay more for the games that you already bought. Nobody should be able to take away the thing that you bought. It makes no goddamn sense. All right, now I'm out. Stay safe. Have a good one.